and welcome to this meeting of the Randwick Local Planning Panel. I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the various lands we occupy for this meeting, the Aboriginal people, their spirits and ancestors. We pay our respects to elders past and present. The meeting today is to consider two applications. We will deal with them in the order shown on the agenda. The panel members for today's meeting are myself, Lindsay Fletcher, as the independent chair, Jan Morell and Kevin Hoffman as independent expert members, and the community member is Kerry Hamer. This meeting is being held by public video conference due to the COVID-19 precautions. As the panel chair, I request that you be considerate and respectful of each other and that everybody remain on mute until I ask you to speak at the meeting. I also request that none of you interject while another person is speaking, otherwise I'll have to request that you be excluded from the meeting. The panel operates in terms of a code of conduct and operational guidelines, which have been modified to facilitate the effective functioning of the panel during the COVID restrictions. The temporary changes are available on Council's website. This meeting will be recorded and will be placed on the Council's website following the meeting. If that is of concern to you on privacy grounds, then I suggest you take it into consideration in your decision to make a public statement before the panel today. In terms of the code, general declarations of interest have been provided before the meeting by all panel members, as well as a specific declaration of interest in relation to the matters being considered today. I can confirm that all declarations of interest have been received and that no members of the panel have declared a conflict of interest on any item for determination at the public meeting. Can I just ask members to, again, for the record, confirm that's the case?
Confirm, Jan Morell, no conflict.
Kerry, I think you're on mute, but I saw you miming that you have no conflict of interest.
I paid attention to being on mute. I apologise. Confirmed, no conflict of interest on either item.
Thank you. And Kevin?
I confirm too. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So thank you for that. The signed declarations of interest will be available to view through the Council's website by tomorrow afternoon, I believe. I also wish to advise all members of the public addressing the panel today that they must declare, prior to commencing their address, any political contributions or donations exceeding $1,000 made over the past 2 years to any political party or candidate who contested the last ordinary election of the Council. Should be fresh in your memories because it was only last Saturday. Our usual practice is to allow each speaker 3 minutes to present, including speakers representing community groups. And in fact, there is nobody representing community groups. So the 3 minutes applies to individuals and the applicant. If you have registered to speak, your address to the panel will be recorded, and we will endeavour to give you a warning signal some 30 seconds or so before the 3-minute time limit. The panel has been provided with a copy of all of the submissions received in response to the public exhibition of the application, including submissions as late as last night. Therefore, there's no need for speakers to repeat the points made in those submissions. I ask that each speaker be heard in silence whilst they're addressing the panel and that courtesy and respect be observed throughout this meeting. There is to be no personal criticism directed at any speaker or to Council staff. Any such criticism would be contrary to the panel's code of conduct and will not be accepted. Panel members may ask questions of the speakers to clarify their understanding of the points being made. After hearing from all speakers, the panel will adjourn to debate the matters and make its determinations in a closed session. If more information is required by the panel on any matter, the decision may be deferred either for a further public meeting or to be dealt with electronically. The panel decisions and recording will be made available on Council website as soon as possible, and it's usually the following day. There is to be no recording of this meeting other than the official recording. So without further ado, we'll move on to the two items. The first of those is the development application for 19 Clovelly Road, Randwick. Today we have two people registered to address the panel on this matter. So I'll ask the first speaker to present. And the first speaker I have listed is Mr. James Hazemer. I hope I've got the pronunciation correct, who is an objector to the development. James?
Can you hear me?
We can, thank you.
Okay, just before I start, I do have a bit of a video presentation as well. So can I just confirm that this up button will allow me to share my screen?
Try it and we'll find out.
Okay, so shall I try it now or shall I wait till
Did you want to show us the video first? I think there's a video you've sent to the panel members anyway.
Yeah.
But for the benefit of the applicant, it's probably appropriate to do show it.
Yeah.
If you want to present that first, then do so now. Otherwise, we'll.
No, I'll speak first and then I'll present the video. So hopefully it'll work.
That's fine. So please proceed.
Yep. So basically, our objection relates to the request of the extension of the operating hours from 10 till 11 p.m. And I've got two main reasons for this objection. Firstly, the restaurant is situated in a quiet residential area within a group of shops that operate during daytime hours only. In fact, there is no other nighttime business within a 1 kilometre radius, so the noise produced by the operation of this business is amplified by the surrounding quietness, and was probably the reason why their 11 p.m. close time request in their initial DA was rejected. In my family's case, we live directly opposite the restaurant on Clovelly Road and have our main bedroom facing the street. So often the noise, which can go up until 11:30 p.m, prevents us going to sleep at a reasonable hour. Okay, this brings me to the second and most important point. Basically, the business operators of Clove Lane have not been compliant with their current hours of operation. So I do not see why they should be granted an extension of these hours. If we are being disturbed up until 1.5 hours after their current designated closing time, it would be reasonable to assume that the same with any extension, which would take us past midnight. Apart from patrons still being in the restaurant well after their current close time, often they hang around on the street after leaving and are very loud and noisy. Now, because there are no rangers on duty at this time, I have found it difficult to get council to take action on these breaches and have subsequently documented some of these occasions by taking footage on my phone. I have a library of about 24 videos, but because of time constraints, I can only really show 4 here as an example of both the noise produced and how their current hours of operation are not being adhered to. So when viewing this video, please take particular note of the time these incidents were recorded. So I'm going to attempt now to share my screen.
James, this is Frank from Randwick City Council. Just thought I'd let you know while you're doing that, make sure if you're going to let the panel member hear the sound, make sure you enable the computer sound. So it's on top of the top right-hand corner of the screen. So it says include computer sound, make sure you enable that. Oh.
Frank, I'm not sure whether we've still got Mr. Hasselman with us.
Don't think we have. Do you want to move to the next speaker?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, the attempt to share the screen failed, but oh, hang on.
He's back.
It's waiting, so. Right.
Okay,
You're back.
I'm back. Sorry, it doesn't seem to be possible. Oh, hold on, here we go. I'll just try this, sorry.
Yeah, that might work.
Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, I've got a messy desktop. Just give me one moment. Okay, so ready? Can you see that?
Yeah, it's not showing a video, but yes.
Here we go. PM, Friday night.
I'm only getting sound. I'm not getting any vision.
Yeah, likewise.
Okay, so is there any way of me being able to then change that so you can see?
My suggestion is it got sent through to us previously. Maybe one of the council officers can share what was sent. I've actually watched all the Vimeo footage that was sent on your previous submissions anyway.
Yeah, I think we've all seen the video in any event, but for the next speaker, who's the applicant, may be useful. If we can do that, Frank, I don't know whether it's possible for you to do that, or
Yes,
Tony.
yes, I could do that now.
So, Mr. Hasselmer, we'll endeavour to do it that way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Can everyone see this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
PM, Friday night. Seems like the sound has disappeared.
Yeah, it disappeared. Yeah.
It's really the sound you need to be hearing here, but
Yeah.
gone.
All right. Well,
That was Saturday, just gone.
Yes. All right. Thank you for that. As I say, the panel members have seen the videos, so have copies of those. It was really for the benefit of the next speaker, so that he was aware of the submission that's been made. So, thank you for your submission. Do panel members have any questions of Mr. Hasselmer?
Well, one that came up was draft condition 69, which I guess you've seen, hasn't it? I, for one, don't believe it goes far enough in terms of what I consider plan of management to be. It would need to include things like a record of complaints and when it happened, who complained, and what was the response, or what was the response of the applicant to resolving that complaint. It's more or less the standard format for and would such a document satisfy your concerns?
Sorry, I was having trouble hearing. Was anyone else having trouble hearing? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the question essentially is that there's a condition requiring a plan of management to be prepared. Mr. Hoffman has expressed the view that it probably needs strengthening, but I think the question to you in essence was, do you believe that if a plan of management strictly controlling the hours and with procedures to record and respond to complaints, would that address your concerns to an extent?
Well, I mean, like I said, I've tried to get this addressed through council numerous times, and I don't feel like anything has really happened because it's kind of going beyond the hours of council. So it's easy for them to be a bit flagrant with their hours and not get kind of you know, penalised for it. So
Yeah,
I don't have much trust in that system. Yeah.
okay. The other component of that is the conditions recommend that if there is to be an extended hours of operation, that be on a trial basis, which I guess puts the applicant on notice that strict compliance will be important if they wish to retain those extended hours. But that's not really a question.
I wanted to ask about what have you done with the concerns, the other concerns that you've had about the unauthorised, you note in your submission, and about unauthorised works, the litter, smoking and the lights as well. Have you had any discussions with the applicant as to those other concerns that you've got?
Well, I don't think that was my submission.
Okay, so, all right.
Right.
I thought perhaps the neighbourhood might have got together and also, you know, discuss some of the concerns as well.
Mine mainly relates to the noise. That's the main issue I've got. Yeah.
Okay. Have you followed up with the police at all?
Well, no, I haven't. I've just taken footage and sent it to council over the years.
Okay. And have you tried to have any discussion with the applicant?
One day I did have a discussion, yeah, when I was taking a video at 12:30 a.m. and they were out in the courtyard. They caught me taking the video and came. I spoke to someone there, and I mean, they were nice. Well, they weren't to begin with, but it ended up being quite nice. But I don't feel like anything has really been done. I mean, during COVID, it was good because they weren't open. But, you know, the last video I took was on Saturday night and it was after 10:30. They were out the front. So I don't know. I just don't have much faith that it's going to be addressed in any meaningful way.
Okay. If there's no further questions.
Just
Oh,
one question.
Yep.
Is it true that the noise is mainly with people leaving the premises, or can you actually hear the noise from the premises whilst people are inside?
Well, sometimes they leave their door open. When the door's open, it's loud. If their door is closed, it's much better. And yes, it's mainly the noise from the patrons leaving the restaurant and hanging around.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you for that. I'll now call upon the next speaker, Mr. Emil Avramides, who's the applicant. Mr. Avramides, you've no doubt read the report, which gives an outline of some of the submissions that have been made. You've now heard from one objector. There are others, and certainly there's a significant concern about noise late at night. So over to you to make your presentation, and we'll then move to questions.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me there?
Yes, thank you.
Yep, okay. So yeah, I would just like to address the noise factor. Certainly with that front door being open, I do know that it does have an impact on James. All the staff are told to keep that door closed. Regarding the customers leaving after hours, basically in an attempt to try and minimize the noise at the front of the restaurant, we do encourage the guests to wait inside if they're ordering Ubers and taxis, etc. So I do guess that would impact on people being outside later. I can say that we have installed some sound panels in the back half of the restaurant on the ceiling, and we actually have plans to install some more in the front half of the restaurant, which I think would, you know, help with that sound, etc. As well as that, obviously, we're very happy to make any necessary action, such as sound reduction panels outside as well. I don't know if that is at all a possibility due to the location of the crossing, the pedestrian crossing, but would be happy to do that also. And that's basically it regarding the noise. We do attempt to keep it quiet, keep that door closed, and to try to minimize the impact that it does have outside. It is a tricky one having people leave. I can understand the complaint in terms of keeping them quiet once they leave the premises, but we do try to keep the noise down.
Okay, but what about the fact that sometimes
No, sorry. This is an opportunity for the panel to ask questions. It's not a debate between the speakers. So thank you. Panel, is there anything further you wish to say in opening?
The only other thing, I guess, relevant to the extended hours was just to, due to the restrictions with dining and the spacing of tables, etc., by extending from 10 to 11 was just to spread out the bookings a bit more, so that yeah, that extra hour can make a big difference, so that we can space out our bookings a bit more. But yeah, that was pretty much it. I mean, it is at the end of the day a modern bistro, essentially a place that we think is designed for people to socialize and interact as a community. It's not set up as a bar to encourage drinking. It's not our MO, you know. It's very much food focused. That's basically the main gist of our application there.
Okay, so panel members, questions? Yeah, Mr. Hoffman.
Mute.
Kevin, sorry, you're still on mute. And you may need to speak up. We're having a bit of difficulty with your sound, but.
Okay. All right, I'll get closer to the mic. If your closing hours are currently 10 o'clock, why are we seeing people on the video still there at 10:45 and 11 o'clock? What's your concept? What closing hour is?
So my understanding, and I could be wrong, but we are licensed till 10 o'clock, so there is a grace period. In the setup of the restaurant, I spoke to council, and they suggested to me that there was a grace period, in that people weren't expected to be kicked out at 10 o'clock and the doors shut. And so that's it. We let people finish the wine if they have, or their desserts, or whatever the case may be, and then they then move on after that. So yeah, as far as I was aware, there was a grace period from that 10 o'clock, not finish at 10 and doors closed.
All right. Well, maybe we'd have to tighten that up in the conditions of what it means.
Yeah, certainly we'd be happy to operate, you know, with a designated grace period, so that it was quite obvious. But yeah, more than happy to take that on board.
Just on that point, does your liquor license specify what that grace period is?
I don't think so. The only period of time that it specifies is there is a 2-hour window for staff drinks. That's what they specify in terms of a time. So yeah.
Right. Any further questions?
I just have one, and that is, do you normally have 2 sittings in the restaurant, or?
Yeah, they're not clearly defined as 2 sittings. We do have a period of time in the middle of the evening which is blocked out, so that we can make the most of the tables that we have. But it's not like 6 and 8 set in stone like that. It's a bit more fluid.
Mm-hmm.
So what time do people expect the establishment to close?
As in be asked to leave? I mean,
Yes.
we like, yeah, we're licensed till 10, so I'm not sure what their expectation is. My
But then-
guess is that till
Yes.
10:30, 11, I'm guessing.
Now, can I just ask, the original development consent had hours imposed.
Yes.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. So that they are the hours for the operation of the restaurant.
Okay, well, as I mentioned, when I spoke to council, they mentioned a grace period, and that's how we operate. So if it needs to be more rigid, then so be it. But that's the information that I had to work off, and that's how we've operated.
Okay, so if you were allowed 10 p.m. closure, would you then expect a grace period after that?
Sorry, you mean 11 p.m.?
Yes.
So I say, yeah, 11 p.m. Yeah.
I guess that an extra half an hour to wind up would not be unreasonable, but you know, if you determine that it needs to be a clear-cut 11, then so be it. I mean, we're not here to play against the community. I would like to think that we're a part of the community, like in a positive fashion, and always happy to discuss if there's any issues, whether it be noise or patrons leaving or litter or anything. You know, I like to think that we're very receptive to criticism or constructive feedback.
Kerry?
Okay, I wanted to ask about where do people smoke, and does that contribute to any, in your view, does that contribute to any of the noise?
Potentially. I mean, we're a non-smoking venue, so they're not allowed to smoke in the venue, which does push them outside. It's something, unfortunately, it's a little bit out of our control. We can't tell people not to smoke. My guess is that the bin outside Curio Cafe is probably used predominantly, but that's an assumption. I don't know for a fact. That would be my guess. If they went out for a cigarette, I'm guessing that's where they would smoke.
Right, and then also as part of the application, and please correct me, anybody else, there was about the outdoor dining and
Yep.
all of that. So I've noticed that there's some works, the decking is higher than what originally was the plan. So I imagine that the deck being higher, then the noise from that area is potentially louder as well.
Potentially. I mean, in our original DA, we had actually put in an acoustic sound barrier on, I believe it was the eastern border, but the council asked us to remove that. I'm not sure why. It was always something we were prepared to do. It's something that we're still prepared to do. Like I said, I mean, we want to operate within the community, not against it. Like, we have a lot of regulars. That's what we're about. This restaurant is it's a community hub, or at least that's what we attempt it to be. You know, it's like the Cheers of restaurants sort of thing. And we don't want to impact negatively on the neighbours or the community. That's not how we operate. So whatever we can do to make it work, we're open. And if that's an acoustic barrier on all the walls, then so be it. You know, we have to live together. It is a quiet neighbourhood. One thing I'll agree with. It really is quiet at night time, and so we are conscious of the impact that we may have in that regard. And with regards to that outdoor area, that would remain closed at that time. We're not requesting to leave that open to 11.
But I guess at the moment that's open to 10 p.m. anyway.
Yep.
So like all the rest.
Yeah.
Well, just to clarify, there's two outdoor areas, one approved at the moment and one you're now seeking approval for that was rejected originally.
Yep.
The concern that's been raised is what's shown on the plans no longer reflects what is in fact there. So there's a discrepancy, and it would seem the area available is well in excess of what would be required to seat 10 people, which is the suggested restriction, I believe, by your acoustic consultant. But the other question that arises is the decking that's been put in. Was your acoustic consultant aware of that? Were his tests or modelling undertaken allowing for those changes or not?
That's a good question. Actually, I don't have the answer to that. I'm not sure. I'd be guessing. I'm not sure. I think from memory, all the recordings were done prior to the decking. I'm pretty sure the recordings were done prior.
Was your consultant informed that it was proposed to put decking there?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Yeah.
All right.
Sorry, one other question I had was just about staff training. So in your induction of new staff, do you talk about patrons leaving the premises and what needs to be done to supervise their exit quietly?
Not specifically, no. The main thing is we do try very hard to keep that front door closed, especially when guests leave, even if it's prior to 10 o'clock. Someone leaves, often people leave the door open. It's a sliding door at the front of the restaurant. And the staff are informed to always close it for that noise factor for the gentleman across the road. But in terms of the guests, once they're on the footpath, no, we actually don't have a procedure for that.
Okay, well,
I had one question, if I could. Just following on your question, Chair. In the draft conditions, I suppose you've seen them. But Mr. Avramitidis, you've seen the draft conditions?
The draft conditions of the original application?
No, the current one in the council report.
No, I have not.
Oh, okay.
I've seen that. No, I just saw that the staff report recommendation was approved, but on the email I got, it doesn't have any conditions on it. I'm just having a look now, but there's nothing on here as such in terms of conditions.
On the website and the agenda for the meeting, there's a separate document which is the draft conditions.
Okay, no, I haven't seen that.
Oh, well, just to clear up a confusion on Al's part, in the conditions it's referring to your backyard and prescribing where you could have seats are referring to a grass area.
Kevin, sorry, you're breaking up again. I wonder if...
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. In those draft conditions, it's referring to a grassed area in the backyard. Now, when I look through the side gate, there's no grassed area. There's a raised
deck. That's correct.
There's a raised planter box, and then there's the deck. Is that where the grass used to be? Those two places?
There's never actually been a grassed area in the venue, but that area, I'm pretty sure it's the western side. Leads on to where our cool room is. Yeah, that area I believe is where they had grassed area in the original plans, but that never came to fruition. That was always just concrete there.
Okay, all right, thank you.
No problem.
Okay, panel members, no further questions of the speakers? No? Any questions of the council officers at this stage? No. All right, so thank you for that. We'll now move on to this next item on our agenda.
I'm terribly sorry, Chair. I just have one, and that is with respect. That is with respect to ranges. It seems that there aren't any ranges out of hours at the council. I don't know, but can we just have that confirmed? Perhaps the council planners may be able to assist us there.
I'll answer that question, Jen. No, the range is available. You know, we have after-hour service. You know, so there's a number that you can call, and the rangers will attend whenever required.
So they are available. Thank you.
Sounds like that hasn't happened.
Hasn't occurred.
Been available.
I'm
Am
sure
in
Mr.
assuming
Hasselman's
that-
taking note of that if he hasn't already tried contacting the rangers, but they are available.
They stop
It's a
at
big
9.
area.
They stop at 9 p.m.
But they will be, depending on
Very
the circumstances, they will be
late hours.
available, after hours as well.
Okay.
Yeah, depending on the urgencies, the council rangers should be available after hours.
Sure. Okay. Thank you for that.
It just seems that is not what's happening. So I think we need to clarify the policy in council as to whether they do have rangers can attend to these things or not.
Yeah, particularly on busy nights, Friday, Saturday nights,
Yeah.
presumably. Yeah.
And Thursdays.
And encouraging the neighbours all to make complaints, and also follow up with the police. As the community rep, I am aware of often sadly the constraints of the limits of the rangers as far as number within Randwick Council, and the times that they operate, and then also the concerns about safety for the rangers out of hours.
Can I suggest the first approach ought to be to the operator of the business? Mr. Avramidis has said on a number of occasions he's, happy to work with the local community. In fact, wants to do so. So it seems to me there's perhaps an avenue there for closer cooperation and trying to sort out these problems without involving either the police or council, if that's possible. But clearly there's an issue there at the moment. It's potentially going to be exacerbated if the hours are to be extended, and particularly if the rear courtyard hours or numbers and hours are increased. So it's something that's in the interests of all of those parties to work together to try and resolve.
Can I just ask here, and there may be a condition already requiring a community liaison committee and for the applicant to hold meetings so that residents do have the opportunity to express their concerns, and an incident book which would in fact identify what action has been taken and the timeliness of same.
Yeah. The answer is there's a requirement for a plan of management, but as other members have already expressed, we believe that at the very least needs to be expanded or strengthened, and the sort of thing you're talking about, Jan, is certainly part of what we have in mind.
Okay.
In the event it's approved, and I'm not suggesting.
I'm just saying that you've got the applicant under those circumstances then must be proactive in ensuring that the residential amenity is reasonably maintained.
Do what they possibly can, yeah.
By having a formal committee that has to meet a minimum per year, etc.
Yep. Okay. Can I, if we've exhausted the questions of the speakers and the staff, I will now attempt to move to the next item. Thank you both for your presentations. We will deliberate on this later today, and the decision of the panel will be available on the council website, possibly late tomorrow, but certainly as quickly as we can. So the next item on the agenda is development application for 19 Dolphin Street, Randwick, and part of the area in front of the property on the street, affecting a heritage wall. We have one speaker registered for this matter, Mr. Tom McGuinness, who's, I note, been in attendance and listening to the earlier item, so thank you for that. But I'll now afford you the opportunity, technically 3 minutes, but we've been pretty flexible, to deal with the matter. You'll be aware, you're speaking as an objector. There is nobody registered to speak on behalf of the applicant for this matter. So you're the only speaker, and I imagine you've read the report and you're aware the recommendation is that the application be refused. So with that background, over to you, Mr. McGuinness.
Thank you. Just a sound check. Am I clear?
That's fine.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Chair, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I represent a group of 9 residents from the immediate vicinity of the subject address, and we are pleased that the staff report recommends refusal. We agree with the report's assessments of impacts on heritage, landscape, parking, amenity, and the neighbourhood character. We as a group are not anti-development. We accept that people have a right to improve their properties, but we also believe that this right must be exercised within the reasonable constraints laid out in local planning instruments. The fact that submissions were received from 24 separate addresses representing some 30 individuals illustrates how importantly we view preserving the natural and heritage qualities of our neighbourhood. As our objections do relate solely to the proposed driveway, which would cut steeply and diagonally across a planted embankment and heritage sandstone wall, I will focus on that aspect. As the Randwick DCP states, due to the likely adverse implications on streetscape amenity, the partial demolition of existing retaining walls within the public domain for the sole purpose of gaining vehicular access to a private property will generally not be supported. Heritage is not lost all at once. It's often lost a little at a time until one day we realise that what we value has gone. Heritage is not just a stone wall and a set of stairs. It's the stories that are embodied in these things, of those who laboured to create them and of the generations of families that have added their stories and memories. If you demolish a wall and rebuild it elsewhere, it's no longer the same wall. It represents a trivialisation of what we value in heritage. In this unique stretch of Dolphin Street, the footpath dives down below the road level and it passes under the trees, along past the sandstone wall and steps to a little hidden treasure of a park. It's a place where families meet regularly, where children play safely. It's also a shortcut that takes you away from the busy roads of Randwick and into a maze of walkways and quiet back streets that lead up to Randwick Village. A driveway cutting diagonally across this unique precinct changes all that. The area becomes less safe. Kids, parents, the elderly, the disabled, all of us have to negotiate vehicle movements, cars potentially blocking the footpath, etc. We lose the precious green space and the sheltering character of the place. This is what we mean by the amenity that we are seeking to preserve. So to finish, the staff report recommends refusal on numerous clear, well-reasoned grounds based on the planning instruments. The community's confidence in the processes of governance depend on upholding the intent of these documents. To set a precedent would risk eventual loss of the whole precinct. We believe that the evidence before you is clear as to why the application should be refused. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you for your presentation. Panel members, do you have any questions of Mr. McGuinness?
No.
No, I think your point is clear. I think it's, as you've noted, consistent with the recommendation that's before us as well. So thank you for that. As I've indicated, there are no speakers representing the applicant on this matter and no other registered speakers. So we have now heard from all of the registered speakers, and I thank you all for your assistance with these 2 matters. In accordance with the panel guidelines, the public meeting will now be closed, and the panel will move to a closed meeting to deliberate on these 2 items and in fact another 6 applications that are for electronic determination. The outcome and from voting and determinations will be made available through the council's website either late tonight or more likely tomorrow. A recording of the public meeting will also be made available through the council's website. I also place on record and thank council staff for their assistance with today's meeting. As this is the last panel meeting of the year, as this is goodbye. As this is the last panel meeting of the year, on behalf of the panel chairs and members, I wish everyone compliments of the season and now declare the meeting closed at 1:48 p.m.